All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And today's video is the PTS. As you guys know, we have arguably the most important patch notes. I feel like I've been saying this a lot, and it seems to be true every week, these patch notes. But Monday, tomorrow, is, as of this video, is going to be a very important set of patch notes to see where this next patch goes. No hyperbole. We'll see what happens from a PVE and PvP perspective, and how many people are going to be excited about next patch, and how many people are just going to take a break and go play other things. You guys have seen it on the forums. I've been trying to convey not only my point of view, but also, you know, the communities. I've been asking people when I stream on Twitch, I've been asking people in the Discord, on YouTube, your thoughts, and the unanimous consensus for people that care about upcoming patch notes is that these aren't very good. And so I'm interested to see where they go with that. I wanted to kind of branch away from the patch note discussion a little bit and talk about a project that I feel like ZeniMax could and should do in the future. Every year they try and take forward a big undertaking of, you know, a project like overhauling light and heavy attacks, changing cast times on ultimates, re-standardizing proc sets. All these sorts of things have come into play in the past, and you know, the community has been like, well, why work on this stuff? Why not work on the things that we want you to see happen? And I realized that, you know, this has never really been talked about on a channel before, so without putzing around any further, we should finally separate PvE and PvP dynamics. There's lots of reasons to do this. Number one, they're two completely separate games. What's balanced for PvP and PvE are vastly different, and having rule sets, like you can have it through Battle Spirit or just separate it entirely. Putting new coding into the game to allow this separation of balancing of sets, rules, and functionality would make so much sense. And in the long term, it would be easier for the developers, and it would be a lot less annoying for the players. Now, from a content creator's perspective, which is mine, and not really your guys's, I talk about changes all the time on this channel. I talk about what I think should be done, what would be good for the game, and I get a lot of kickback on things because oftentimes I do talk about how it should be separated through Battle Spirit, and Battle Spirit is, you know, the PvP aspect to where it only makes changes in PvP, and that way PvE is left alone. But I don't say that in every single video because I feel like that's just beating a dead horse. And so sometimes people jump into a video and, you know, they don't hear that because they're not longtime viewers of my channel, and they get annoyed and they're like, oh, you PvPers are ruining things for PvE, and, you know, that entire thing happens. There's no need for this to exist. There's absolutely no need. They've already shown that you can remove sets from PvP. They've adjusted to where no proc Cyrodiil is in no CP, and they've removed item sets, and they're slowly going to introduce some, and they're already doing this sort of standardization. What I'm trying to say here is let's just take it a little bit further. You know, like let's have a standardization adjusted through healing and all these other sorts of things. So when you do want to do overhauls for PvE, which justifiably so, you can do it in a way that doesn't impact PvP. And so this would just make it a lot easier for the developers to make changes in one aspect and not have to think about a middle ground change that doesn't hurt one avenue, but also accomplishes what they're trying to accomplish. So having this separation makes a lot of sense. You can isolate issues in an area and impact them only in that area without affecting anything else. And so as an example for this last patch, or during these patch notes, ZeniMax has wanted to lower damage, and from a PvE perspective, they wanted to lower damage, and they've also wanted to lower healing. Well, the problem with lowering healing right now is for the harder, you know, trifecta runs and on some of the current endgame content, the healing right now is, if you lower it any further, you're not going to be able to complete some of the content. That's what PvE players are saying. They're saying it's just, you're going to need more healing. From a PvP perspective, a lot of these healing adjustments are welcome because cross healing is very powerful in PvP, and so you're trying to balance these two different things where they're just different. And I'm not saying from a PvP perspective, my opinion's more important. It's just, if we separate this, then we don't have to impact it. So the healing can be adjusted and lowered from a cross healing perspective in PvP, and then it doesn't impact trials. If you want to increase healing in trials, it doesn't make people unkillable in PvP with these separations. Just as an example, if you want to adjust damage, like light attack damage, and have lower parses so that you can standardize content a little bit better, it makes sense. But then you can also not have that a rule applied in PvP, and you go about standardizing two different things. And so it does seem like it's a lot of work, and it would be, because you're literally coding parts of the game and making things work differently in different areas. But they already have proof that they've done this, via rallying cry, and different skills in the past used to work this way, where ambush, if you used to ambush on an NPC, it would stun them, but it only worked outside of PvP or on NPCs. So they've had these rule sets before. This is just basically stating, like, these are two different aspects of the game. We can now standardize rule sets, coding, and different healing aspects in different avenues of the game, and make it easier. And so what this does is it allows the developers to go be more creative with their adjustments, right? Like, if you want to make certain adjustments for PvE, you can now go hog wild with it. You can come out with crazy gear sets, new mythic items, all these sorts of things that PvEers would love, and that they'd be willing to invest in the future, by also knowing that they're not going to get nerfed to the ground if they're overtuned in PvP. Like, I've seen this argument a lot about Oakensoul. Like, wow, I bought this patch for Oakensoul and I only got to enjoy it for 3 months. You've been playing the game for a while. You knew this was coming. It sucks. I totally feel your pain in the regards of hoping to enjoy something more. And I don't think that's the best way to go about doing things either. I'm in complete agreement with you. But yeah, if we had this standardization, the current Oakensoul could still exist in PvE. It could still exist, and then you could just, make these adjustments in PvP. You could make these adjustments, and so it would just be a lot easier. It'd be a lot easier. Like, if you think about changes overall, it's just so much easier to tackle content when you're not weighing the pros and cons from 2 or 3 different points of view, right? Like, you just attack things head on. And so I've seen this conversation happen a lot. I've seen it happen a lot on the forums. I've seen a lot of people say it, like, now is finally the time. It is. I think it is. I think you see that the development team really wants to tackle big aspects of this game, and this is a big aspect. This is a huge one, and this would be so beneficial for everybody. And the best part about it, that I haven't even mentioned yet because I'm, holding out on you guys, is the fact that no longer will the communities argue with each other about mundane stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like, clearly most reasonable people would say, yeah, if it's broken in PvP, try to fix it for PvP. If it's fine for PvE, leave it there. Like, they're two completely different games, and vice versa. Most reasonable people are already in this boat. It's just, we don't get the stuff we want to see accomplished when people that play different parts of this game get this mentality that it's the other people's fault. It just doesn't make any sense. We're not in charge of the game, PvPers or PvEers. The development team is in charge of this game. They're in charge of balancing. They're in charge of adjusting. And this, I think, would be a very big change that the vast majority of the community would want. I think so. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. But yes, we're going to keep it short, sweet, to the point. There's all these pros to undertake this project, this sort of overhaul. It would be so good for the game. It would be so good long term. It would be a lot less frustrating from the development team to deal with constant feedback about adjustments for all these sorts of things. Think about how much easier these patch notes would have been if they were just trying to adjust light and heavy attack damage, and they could do that from a PvE side, and then not have to hear complaints from PvP about how this is impacting this and this is impacting this. Separate rule sets would be huge for everybody. It would be so good for everybody, and it would accomplish ZeniMax's goal of tackling these big projects. And this is a big project that they could do that the community wants. I think from everything I've seen, I think the community wants this. So I'm going to leave that here. I will also provide a poll just to get an idea, gauge feedback on my community post if you guys actually like this. If you don't like it, that's fine. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe I'm out on a limb, but this is what I've seen so far. So I'm gonna end it here. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.